It's getting harder and harder and harder every month.
Jameson Mendoza is a 5-year truck driver from Oviedo. He sent us some photos
Now
of
it's
his
doing
truck
is
as he
cutting
stopped briefly in
all
Georgia to speak
my
with us
personal
about the
expenses out
hardship
the
of
way,
fuel prices.
like my house payment, my car payment, my personal insurance, food, bills in the house. It's putting me behind on a lot of things and a lot of plans that I had in my future because of the fuel price skyrocketing really high.
He says he owns his trailer outright but has nearly a year left of payments on the truck. Drivers who don't have payments to make hope to weather this fuel price spike in better shape.
Thankfully, I have my truck paid for, so it's kind of like a little relief for me.
Many of the truckers tell us it's not as simple as raising the rates for hauling loads. They have to negotiate with the brokers looking to dole out shipments. Mendoza is starting to haul more loads per week over shorter distances to use less fuel.
Now I have to do short loads and make 4 to 5 to 6 short loads a week to cover what I used to cover last year when I did 2 loads.
And he says that these high prices persist for, say, a year or a year and a half, he may actually have to reconsider exactly what he does for a living.
Shalom, like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakakwadash. I give double honors to our apostles and elders, great millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, pushing this word out across the four corners of the world. And as you can see through the spirit, that these truckers are feeling that economic discomfort that's coming from this inflation. Where we are in the times that food, fuel, consumer goods, rent in America are more expensive than ever. And by that, this financial system or market is crashing, which was all engineered by the tabernacle of Edom, beginning with the higher ups, to cause this financial collapse of this American dollar and to transition into a digital currency. Linking up with Revelation the 13th chapter and the 16th verse, going into the Karama. So by this engineered collapse that we are currently witnessing, it's taking a major hit upon America's middle class. And that's why you have these truckers are complaining about these financial straits. And you know, with the truckers, they are the blood in the veins within the body of America. So they play a major, vital role and to keep this economy and this country functioning. But now you have these truckers are complaining about them taking loads for a loss, and now they are considering about leaving the trucking industry. So with the effects of that, with the truckers leaving, what does that mean for the average American consumer? Because it's only 3 days worth of food on these shelves in the grocery stores. So that's going to push the inhabitants of America to be in total chaos, which is planned by the higher ups of Esau Edom to cause this chaos, this disruption, all this civil unrest in order to bring forth their order, going into this new world order. So we are definitely in some beautiful times. So I have this article right here from businessinsider.com, and the title says, truckers warn skyrocketing diesel prices are making U.S. supply chain and trucking industry unsustainable. And this was published on June the 10th, 2022. It says, a Facebook post from the owner of a Texas trucking company went viral last week after he warned that skyrocketing diesel prices could have long-term consequences for the U.S. supply chain. Austin Smith, owner of Iron River Express, said it has cost him over $20,000 a week to keep his 3 trucks running. If something drastic doesn't change in the next few weeks, months, I promise you, you'll see empty shelves everywhere you look. And what he stated through the spirit, that's actually biblical prophecies that's going to be fulfilled in this day of time. That's 2 Ezra, the 6th chapter, and the 22nd verse, how the full storehouses should suddenly be found empty, going into these grocery stores, these supermarkets, because of the truckers no longer supplying that demand, which is these food items, these household items, these consumer goods. So that's going to cause the inhabitants of America to be in an uproar, social unrest. And it says, Smith wrote in a post that was shared nearly 290,000 times, you will see chaos as people fight for the basic necessities of everyday life. And you have a saying that goes by, desperate times calls for desperate measures, meaning that actions that might seem to be harsh or extreme under so-called normal circumstances For example, just the way how this society is currently running, but throughout dreadful, chaotic times, those type of actions will be considered appropriate. In the way that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is placing that vibration upon these international bankers to push forth these drastic measures upon the inhabitants of the world, especially here within America, Babylon the Great, it's going to be that get it by all means spirit out here very soon. So yes, indeed, it's going to be total chaos within the streets of America. And chaos goes into disorder, confusion. We are definitely in that land of confusion. So let's get Isaiah 24:10. And it says, the city of confusion is broken down. So the city of confusion is referring to America, Babylon the Great. The word Babylon derives from a Hebrew word babal, which means confusion, disorder. And just from a spiritual aspect, this place America is definitely confused and disorderly because it does not abide by the ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua via keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments. And just from a mental aspect, these Americans are totally confused because they don't know what the hell is going on within America. With this inflation that's about to be transitioning to hyperinflation that's taking a major effect upon their daily lives. Then on top of that, these Americans are getting lied to by these government officials by promising them things will return back to normal like pre-pandemic days. So by all these lies, majority of these Americans are in total gross darkness. They are in a confused state. So it says the city of confusion is broken down, meaning that this place America is on a total brink of collapse. Just look at the financial market. You have average rent prices in the US that surpass $2,000. Then on top of that, you have inflation of energy, food prices, airline fares, and vehicles. And let's not forget that these truckers are leaving the trucking industry, which are the bloodline of America. So a society that's going through these financial straits like this, it can't help but circle the drain. And that's the current status of America. It's circling the drain. So the city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. Verse 11, there's a crying for wine in the streets, and that wine is going into that true understanding of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, wondering why these things are occurring in these troublesome, dreadful times. So these people are going to be crying for the true prophets out here on the highways and the byways. But we as the hopeful elect prophets will no longer be out there because of all these chaotic times that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is going to bring upon this place. So he's going to withdraw his prophets via the famine of the word. So there's going to be a crying for wine in the streets. And it says, all joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. So we're coming into those dreadful, gloomy times. Let's get there right quick. In Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, starting verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grounders cease because they are few, going into these jobs. And you have these truckers are complaining about these diesel fuel prices are skyrocketing, that they cannot make ends meet. Because these people have families at home. They have a household to take care of as far as bills and things of that sort. So if they stop supplying that demand to the American consumers, then you can close the curtains for this place, which is going to happen regardless. And it says, and the grinders cease because they are few. And just the way that these gasoline prices are skyrocketing, you're going to have these regular, everyday American workers stop commuting back and forth to their jobs. And it says, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. And that darkened goes into dismal, dreadful, gloomy times. And that's really that vibration within America right now. These people cannot travel or go on vacation like they once did. So that burden and that pressure, that anxiety, that stress is upon the mindset of these Americans. And that's very beautiful through the spirit, how Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is afflicting this earth, especially upon these proudful Americans. So they definitely deserve all this hell and economic discomfort that's coming to them. And all of this is happening within their so-called Gay Pride Month. How about that? So it says right here, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Let's link that up with Revelation, the 18th chapter and the 23rd verse. And it says, and the light of a candle should shine no more at all in thee. Going into Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, how it says, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. So America always had that influence by being Babylon the Great, the hammer of the earth, and pretty much punking out these nations to accept that Babylonian wine, going into America's philosophies and democracy. So now we at that time point where America is losing that glory. Shameful spirits being brought upon America. So the so-called glory days of America is fading. And that's why it says, "And the light of a candle should shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride should be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." And that's by the means of that Babylonian wine, which is nothing but witchcraft. Linking up with Nahum, the 3rd chapter, the mistress of witchcrafts that selling nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. And pursuant to our law mentioned in the book of Exodus, the 22nd chapter, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So this sinful kingdom, America, will definitely be taken out, and rightfully so. So we as the hopeful elect, we supposed to be rejoicing in these troublesome times that's coming upon this place, because this represents a transition of powers, a transition of rulerships. And that takes me to the book of Baruch, the 4th chapter and the 30th verse. "Take a good heart, O Jerusalem." And this is referring to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, the Israel of the Most High, as it says in Galatians, the 6th chapter. The ones who are truly sighing and crying for all the abominations done in the midst thereof. So that represents the hopeful elect, the ones who are sincerely seeking Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua in these last days. So that's representing New Jerusalem. And it says, "For he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are they that afflicted thee, and rejoice in thy fall." And you read into the book of Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, it goes into how thy enemy has said against you, referring to Jerusalem, aha. And you go to the word aha, it goes into to rejoice at the misfortune of your enemy. So once we as the Israelites got taken down from our glory by disconnecting from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, starting with the tabernacle of Edom, and trickling on down to these other nations who are joint heirs with the tabernacle of Edom. Verse 32, "Miserable are the cities which thy children serve." What's that main city? America, Babylon the Great, that house of the thief. "Miserable is she that received thy sons, for as she rejoiced at thy ruin, and was glad of thy fall, so should she be grieved for her own desolation." Verse 34, "For I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride should be turned into mourning." So that great American pride, we're coming to an end of that. So that's why it's stated in Revelation, the 18th chapter, "Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua had avenged you on her." And that's by bringing the walls of America down through the gift of prophecy. So these regular everyday Americans, including 2/3 of our people, are in that state of being dismal, sorrowful, in a state of despair, because ultimately they don't know why all these things are occurring right now. But we as the hopeful elect with that spiritual eye salve, we do. And that takes me to 2 Ezra, the 15th chapter and the 12th verse. Because when I read in this article earlier within this lesson, that trucker by the name of Austin Smith, he stated if something drastic doesn't change in the next few weeks or months, I promise you, you will see empty shells everywhere you look. And he says you will see chaos as people fight for the basic necessities of everyday life. So this is that burden of Egypt. And this is 2 Ezra, the 15th chapter and the 12th verse. Egypt should mourn, and spiritual Egypt is referring to America. And the foundation of it should be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua should bring upon it. And that goes into these divine plagues, afflictions, and calamities Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is bringing upon this sinful kingdom. And Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is utilizing his rod of anger, referring to the tabernacle of Edom, beginning with these international bankers, by the means of applying inflation, and that's killing of the remains of America's middle class. Which leads to biblical prophecy, how he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor. So he's going to cut off that middle class. And that's why these everyday American workers are complaining. So everything's been set in stone, and everybody's starting to see the reality of this place. So I brought this out. You all was edified. You all stay strong. Keep pushing forward. Shalom.